Oded and David. So we will begin in telling that this is the second day of the festival. Today it's the global Mekashkesh, and we're gonna celebrate the 1 year for the podcast of the design illustration with people from Germany, UK, Asia, Austria, USA, and Israel. So right now we joining us is Oded Ezer and David Johnatan Ross, and they will present themselves in 1 minute. Before, I just want to say that the Mekashkesh Festival is sponsored by Elementor, a website building platform for professional web creators such as designers, developers, and marketeers. Elementor is a fast-growing company looking to hire talented designers to join their top-notch design department. Check out Elementor open position at careers.elementor.com. And hey, Oded, what's up?
I'm good. David, what's the time on your side?
Oh, it's one in the afternoon. So I'm, around lunchtime.
Oh, nice.
Did you eat already?
I didn't know. Too nervous before a presentation always to eat.
So David, listen, I saw your presentation last week. I told you that it was like fantastic, and it was so fun to see how you are passionate about type and stuff like that. This is like the things I love in typography, what you do and what Oded, that you can, like, it's, I don't know, break the box or something like that and think different. And I think our audience today will see some of the things you did together. They will really give them inspiration to work on something new. So I'm excited that you are here with Oded, and maybe starting with present yourself, and then Oded present yourself and talk about your work together.
Great. So yeah, it's okay if I start?
Yes, sure.
Wonderful. So I just have a few slides about, about a little bit about myself and about the project that I started, and then Oded took so much further. And so hopefully this will be a nice handoff where I show the beginning of it in the Latin world, and then maybe Oded can show how it became an awesome Hebrew typeface. And yeah, thank you so much, Shahi, for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm coming at you from Massachusetts in the northeastern US. I'm in a very small town called, I guess I should click on my presentation, called Conway. And it's just a few hours away from Boston. But yeah, the reason I start with this postcard is because I love letter forms that are big. I love kind of cranking up the dials of type, turning everything to 11. And often when you do that, you can get really explosive results in your work. And I run a font subscription service here in the US, or actually it's anywhere you can sign up, called Font of the Month Club, where I send out a new font every month. And this really gives me the opportunity to try to push the alphabet, in particular the Latin alphabet, in different ways. I love pushing, weight and contrast. Of course, having top heavy and bottom heavy letters is, normal in Hebrew, but pretty weird looking in Latin. And I love that effect in letter forms, and I love to explore that. I love doing stuff based in history, kind of pushing the envelope and how stuff that's old can become new again. This is based on a 19th century French clarinet extended typeface, and this font is called Tortellini. I love, pushing, trying to see what happens to a letter forms in the extreme of size. So what happens when letter forms have to get very, very small. So this is a font for micro sizes. And I love pushing font tech to the extreme and seeing how much new technology I can pack into my fonts. So I love fonts that can morph, where the shapes can actually change within the font, or fonts that aren't just black and white, but actually contain color information. And I think my love of extremes really started with this typeface Fit, which is the project that Oded and I worked on together. It actually looks a lot more epic when you have a cool background like that. fit comes from the idea that white space is overrated, right? That we can just fill the available space with the text we have. And, of course, there's a rich tradition of this in Western design, at least, looking at posters where they just took type and, this is from the 19th century, and they just fill the available space with words, and you get this really lovely wall of type. And I really love that stuff. But I'm also super interested in how other scripts, scripts other than my own, other than Latin, deal with filling up space. And so, I remember looking very closely at Hebrew, for example, where you have this rich tradition of, at the end of a line, just stretching out certain letter forms to fill the line. So you have a nicely, cleanly justified paragraph. And I think that's so cool and not something we do in Latin type. And of course, if you look to other scripts, things get really interesting too, like a Kufic Arabic, where the words can become these intricate shapes, or even scripts like Japanese, where this is actually a ranking chart of sumo wrestlers from the Edo period. And I think the saying goes is that the more packed the layout is, the more packed the stadium will be for the wrestling match. And I like that idea of just packing type into space. Unfortunately, in today's graphic design, the easiest way to fill up space is to take type and just stretch it. And sometimes this can kind of be visually interesting, but it does distort the typeface, right? It takes the shapes and it takes the thicks and thins and rearranges them. Just for example, Helvetica is a low contrast typeface, right? It has the thicks and the thins are mostly the same size, or mostly the same thickness. And then when you distort it, when you stretch it, all of a sudden the horizontals become very thick, but the vertical strokes don't become thick. So you get this weird distortion. Around 2016, this new font technology came into play, variable fonts, where you can actually morph shapes within a single font file. And I was like, well, what if we could use this new technology to fill the available space without having those distortions that you get from just stretching type? And so I started playing with it and figuring out a system where all of these different letter A's could coexist in the same typeface, or actually in the same font file. And I actually only had to draw this kind of regular weight, this super condensed weight, and then this super wide weight. And then everything else was interpolated, just kind of using math to figure out the midpoints. And so it was great to just have all of that within one font, because then you could have different, different weights depending on what's filling the space. So, if it's only one letter, it's super thick. If it's many letters, as you add letters, it just gets thinner and thinner and thinner, but it always fills the space. And so, yeah, that's pretty much the whole thing about fit, is that it's designed to fit just about any text into just about any space. And I don't know how many people here deal with websites or responsive design, but you can almost think of this like responsive design, but for letter forms, right? Like the actual shapes of the letter forms are responding to the environment around them. And with a colleague, Chris Lewis, I was actually able to implement a website where people could have that fun, that visceral, we kind of have a visceral need to stretch type, but here you can stretch type safely without actually distorting the letter forms. Like if you actually watch the white spaces in the letters, or here they're black, but the negative space, you can actually see that they don't ever change, right? Because it's not actually distorting the type, it's interpolating it across this width axis. And it was really cool, just really quick to show you how people started putting fit to use in posters, in exhibitions, for event identities. This is for a conference, an architecture conference in Finland, for beer bottles, for political posters. This is from Brazil. For booklets, these are actually for musical scripts, like from like Broadway musicals. The back covers there, sorry. And yeah, and maybe one of my favorite examples, this is an unusual book called Street Photography Now, which is actually designed for you to take sneaky photos with your cell phone. So you can see, you can actually, take your phone and place it in the book, and then you can, look like you're reading, but actually take photos through the hole in the back cover. So yeah, one of the more interesting uses of one of my typefaces, I think. But yeah, and just and I love in a typeface how you start with the letter forms, kind of the basic alphabet, but then it quickly explodes. Having to figure out the numbers, how the numbers work in this system of shapes, how the punctuation, I mean, you can see I kind of cheated things like the percentage sign. You can see how I had to kind of break my own rules a little bit there to make it work, because this font really isn't good with diagonal letters. It's really about verticals and horizontals. Figuring out accented characters for, I'm native English speaker, so, getting to learn about kind of what boundaries, what extremes are acceptable for accented characters, and then also offering alternates that don't fit in the space. So there's fit and non-fit. Same thing in Vietnamese, where you actually have accents on top of accents. And so the letter form has to really duck down to make room for those accents, and then alternates as well. Working with a consultant, I actually designed a Cyrillic version of this typeface, because I really liked how this related to Russian constructivism from the early 20th century. And I did a Greek as well, just because I have a little experience with Greek. And yeah, so, but, other than that, that's kind of the limits of my experience. I have, I grew up, I went to Hebrew school. I have some familiarity with the Hebrew script, but it's definitely not my specialty. And that's why I was really fascinated when I got this email from Oded. And this was literally the email.
You keep this email, David.
Heck yeah, I kept this email. This is history for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's where I can stop my presentation, and maybe Oded, if you want, you can take over.
Well, thank you, David. That was an amazing start, I think, for our conversation. So my side of the story starts with this small article. Actually, it was a post on this wonderful blog about David's feet. And if it was on January 2017, and it was just at the time where I was looking for new collaborations, because I really love to collaborate, and I've decided that I want to expand this collaboration. And so I went into your website, David, and I saw all these this range of languages, which is unusual. I must say, this is so wide range that I was blown by that. But naturally, I was looking for the Hebrew, and there was no Hebrew. So I decided to write to you, and that was the beginning of our wonderful friendship, I must say. And the thing that I was amazed by was the fact that, as you already said, the inner space was always the same. And that was completely original and new. And I thought I can easily translate it into Hebrew. It won't be a problem. I mean, and also I've noticed that you have certain rules, like the round shapes on the upper left and the bottom right. And there was a logical concept behind the whole thing. And I said, oh, this is serious. I mean, yeah, I can jump into this. And also I had this in mind, which is kind of a reference that I had of the Hebrew, and the inner spaces were just like what you did. So I said, okay, I'm going to give it a shot. And the first thing that I did is the letter Pei, because it was very easy just to flip upside down J. And that gave me a complete freedom to continue with the shapes. Now, the problems started to appear with Gimel and other letter forms, because as we know, Gimel is an open letter. So it took me a few days to play with the idea that can I close it or is it forbidden? You know, it was kind of a time where I had to allow myself to do just this, and not to fear that it will look like a pay, because it is a gimel. It's obvious that it's still a gimel. And after I noticed that there's nothing wrong with that, so I continued with the reish. And of course, the samech was very easy. It's very similar to O, but here I've made something that David didn't think about. I just made the upper left corner sharp. And I was wondering whether you get it, you will be okay with that or not. And I was so happy to see that you didn't mind that I did it. But to tell you the truth, what was really important to me is not to change the Hebrew. I mean, not to make the Hebrew Latin. So I allowed myself to do all these transformations in order to remain within the structure of the Hebrew letter form. What do we have here? Aleph, just like the K. Kuf, here I had to lower a little bit this the left vertical line, so it will be Kuf and not Hey, obviously. And here's the final result. I mean, that was actually the work of both of us. I mean, David said, gave a few comments, and I went back and we discussed that. And I was so happy to see that it does work in Hebrew as well. I mean, the Hebrew, I'm not exaggerating that it's readable. It's not very readable, but it has its own logic behind that, and just like the Latin. And as David said, this is a very, very flexible typeface, and this is the beauty of it, and the nature of it is so unique that as a designer that is interested in experimenting with all kinds of designs, for me, it's like obvious that we can do it together. So here is the Aleph to Tav, and so you see it works. And also here in Israel, few used it for designs. Here you can see my own design. I designed this poster as a, I don't know, a demonstration of fit Hebrew, and then it had the life of its own, and then they took it to an exhibition in Lodz in Poland, and it appeared in other places also. Oh, this is something else. David, do you want to take it from here?
So I just want to say that I really like this work, and we have just that you will know, we got like something like 20 minutes. Okay.
Okay. I just want to take a little bit, like a few minutes, just to show off our new website.
Yes.
Because we have a new website, and I'm so excited about that. It is as a typehouse, as a typehouse.com, and you are invited to take a look. It's a wonderful website built by Yakir Mordechai and by myself, and I'm so excited about that. I don't know, Yakir, are you with us? Do you want to say a few words about the website? Yakir?
Maybe it's shy.
Oh, I'm here. Yeah, I won't say a lot. Just it was really really mutual work to try and figure out how we present Oded more than 20 years of work and typefaces. And I think our main goal was to find a way to give each typeface his own place and his own owner. And we took some bold decision UX-wise, I think. And I think we nailed it.
Yeah. So, David, we are going back to you.
Okay.
It looks great, the website. So congrats on that. So yeah, I guess I'll share just for another second because I don't have a ton of slides for Tortellini. But I did also want to answer, if it's okay, answer Michal's question in the chat.
We would be happy to answer Michal's question.
If that's okay to do that now?
Yeah,
Sure.
You
Cool.
can read the question.
Oh yeah, sorry. Here. Oh, just lost the chat when I started screen sharing. Hang on one second. So the question is, how do you relate to the readability issue? Do you think there's a solution for responsive typefaces for text-heavy paragraphs on websites, apps, etc.? And my answer is yes, definitely. As Oded said, Fit was not designed to be readable. And it was, definitely not designed to be used in paragraphs. But I've implemented with axes, variable axes on, more workhorse text-friendly typefaces. And what's cool is you can actually get, essentially as your design gets narrower, let the actual letter forms get narrower with it. So for example, here I have two breakpoints from my website, and you can see that in the mobile version, I'm using a slightly narrower version where so it's essentially it'll squeeze an extra word or two per, or really just a word per line, and hopefully improve the rag, the justification rag, and yeah, I love the idea that for headlines, you can just do subtle manipulations to make things fit without kind of ruining the brand or doing something obviously different. Actually, this is a cool thing. I'll shut up after this. I don't want the answer to be too long to the question, but Bram Stein implemented a justification engine for variable fonts where, rather than just putting words in between, kind of like making the word space larger and smaller, he actually did it with a variable font. So you can see that it's a very subtle difference, but by making the text just ever so subtly wider, you can get a much more even appearance in justified text at small sizes. So yeah, I thought that was a really cool implementation. Anyway, so back to my second collaboration with Oded. And I mean, I think that, and okay, sorry, one question, a question from Anat. Can they define a font width set by the window size? Yeah, you can define a font size, like in a website, for example. You can define it in viewport units, so like viewport width or viewport height, and then it will actually scale to the window. I think this is an implementation of this. This is just my little utility that changes fonts to, generates WAF files for web use. And yeah, as you scale this, I think this is actually using JavaScript maybe to recalculate. So as you drag the window, it recalculates the appropriate width. But I think the height is happening through viewport units. And that's why you see it happen immediately. Hope that answers your question. But yeah, so Oded, I released these monthly fonts. So this is the font from July 2019. And yeah, these monthly fonts, like the nice thing about putting out something every month is I don't have to be too invested in it. I don't have to, it's not so important to me that every font is a massive hit or that everyone is used, right? It's just like the barrier is like, can I keep it interesting for me? Can I keep on making shapes that are kind of just like, yeah, get me excited? And so yeah, in last summer or 2 summers ago, I released this font Tortellini, I like naming my old wood type fonts after pasta. I have manicotti and pappardelle too in my library. And yeah, I mean, I don't know how much there is to. I mean, I have a lot less to say about this typeface just because I think it's like it kind of is what it is. And yeah, I love the clunkiness. I loved figuring out you know, how to deal with, you know, as the serifs get heavier in this typeface, the intervals, these little spaces between the serifs get more important because they start to appear between letters, but also within letters. And in order to get that to work, sometimes I would actually change the length of the serif here. This is a little hacky to show you it this way, but I believe, oh, these line up. Oh, but then, okay, so you see the M, like these two serifs line up, but here, watch this L. This L, you can see that actually these two serifs don't line up. And the reason for that is because I decided that the intervals between the letters, the white spaces, were more important than the letters themselves. And so I became obsessed with figuring out how to make these white spaces pop. That really kind of, it's the kind of the glue that holds the typeface together. You know, you have all these different shapes, and then, you know, the things that they have in common become, yeah, that just like that thing, that bond that holds it together.
In this point, David, I think it will be nice to show what happened with the Hebrew, because it is a very natural Hebrew way of doing the conversed tension. So the first thing I did, I just wrote Tortellini in Hebrew and sent it to you. And you said, oh, yeah, why not? We can go. And then it reminded me about the logotype of Bezalel, where I learned, designed by Lillian, some more than 100 years ago, but the tension was the same. And so I started to design some sketches, to draw some sketches. And the question was how much pointy the edges should be. Should we have a slight round shapes to the Hebrew, because the English is so round. So I put some round shapes, and every time that I had a question and I didn't know how to use the lines, I went back to Hadassah of Henry Friedlander, because this is like a Bible for me. The way that he designed the chet here is just amazing, just genius. So I took the idea of a lines that goes within themselves and just continue that. So here's kind of the first specimen, and then a more advanced specimen. It became very natural for the Hebrew to slide in. It just so typical Hebrew way of doing the things. I rely mostly on the Ashkenazi structure of the letters. So it was very, very easy here. Tortellini, how I released it here in Israel, and some examples. That's it, basically. Yeah.
עודד?
כן.
שומעים אותי. רציתי לשאול, כאילו אני אשאל אותך קודם, כי כשדיברתי לא שמעו, כמה זמן באמת לוקח לעבוד על פרויקט כזה?
He asked, how much time does it take to work on such a project? Well, I don't remember really. Every time that I work on a typeface, I kind of forget myself. That's the truth. And so I don't measure it. I guess, how much time did it take, David? A few months, I think.
For Fit?
For Fit, it was longer, isn't it?
Yeah, Fit was a bit longer. Tortellini, it just kind of appeared, I feel like. I didn't do too much. I mean, there was less conversation. And I was just like, every time you sent me something, I was just like, looks good. Like, I wish I had more to say. Fit was there was a lot more back and forth. So yeah, that definitely went on for a few months.
I have a surprise for you all, guys. So once more, I'm going to share my screen because, David, I'm going to surprise you. So, yeah, you just released Cluster, I think a month ago or something like that. So
January
I said,
1st.
well, for the event, for Shachi's event, for this wonderful, wonderful festival. And by the way, Shachi, I want to congratulate you because it's a great, great event and you're doing it so nice. So, ta-da! I'm just working on Cluster Hebrew now. And of course, I don't have the whole letter forms, so it's just the beginning. But David, it's on its way to you.
That is awesome. Wow, that's just so cool to see.
Thank
I
you.
honestly had no idea this was happening. So this is
Yeah.
a great surprise.
Well,
Oh yeah, it's really cool how you've captured those, yeah, because Cluster is all about the super long serifs.
Yeah.
All these vertical serifs, they're almost like kind of knives, like slicing the white space up, like almost like karate chops.
So here I lean heavily on a very famous classic Hebrew typeface from the 20th century, Hatzvi. So the basic skeleton is very much the same, although I give myself the freedom to give some Odedness to the shapes, So yeah, here we go. That's the new thing now.
Really cool.
I love it. I mean, maybe if you want, I mean, one thing I think one of the most interesting parts of working with you from my point of view was kind of seeing your thought process. And, I guess, you kind of have, every typeface kind of has needs, right? Like it needs to look a certain way to feel like it belongs to that typeface. But then every writing system also has needs, right? And the needs of Latin are very different than the needs of Hebrew.
Absolutely.
And so what I really enjoyed watching was how you balance those needs, and how you kind of, rather than just taking exact shapes and translating them, you were actually taking ideas and translating them.
Absolutely.
One example is in my typeface fit, I was combining uppercase and lowercase letters. Right, because so for example, like you have like a capital T in Latin, and it creates all that extra white space. So my solution was always to incorporate lowercase letters where they filled the space better. Of course, in a unicase system like Hebrew, you didn't do that. And so I thought it was cool to see how I mean, fit honestly, like just technically with your fingers, is a pretty easy typeface to draw. Right, it's like just like a lot of straight lines, a lot of curves.
That's very clear rules. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's a lot of copy and paste, right? But so what I thought was so cool is that you didn't just do you didn't do it the quick way. You weren't just copy and pasting. You actually were doing like a lot of like mental work on it. So yeah, I mean, do you want to talk all about kind of how you dealt with my uppercase and lowercase thing and dealing with block and script and stuff?
I don't know if we have enough time, Shachi.
Oh shoot, sorry.
We don't have time.
Oh, sorry.
No, we need to do something longer about this time, right?
So we will meet again.
Yeah, but I want to ask David a little bit about the inspiration, and if we will have time. Actually, Oded told us about it in the podcast, so you can listen to the podcast with Oded. And David, can you...
למעשה יש שתי הקלטות, נכון, שחי?
Yep. So David, can you talk a little bit about the inspiration, and you like a machine of type or something like that?
Sorry, machine of type?
Like a machine, a human machine of type.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, and so I'll answer your question and maybe Maya's question at the same time, and I'll try to be brief. Sorry about maybe talking too long. I guess I tend to do that. Yeah, I'm constantly looking at old specimen books. I collect, this is what I have on my desk right now, old like lettering manuals. This is a German one, where it's just, German calligraphers just, doing their thing. This guy's name is Max Kerner, which I think is like the best font name ever. but yeah, so I'm constantly trying to connect my typefaces with history, with other typefaces. I mean, I think it's impossible not to. And I try to be very upfront about those connections and always show images of what existed before. But yeah, I'm constantly looking at other fonts.
And other than fonts and stuff in the, on the street or something like that, you inspired by?
David, you have a huge collection of signs from Los Angeles and the region, right?
Yes, I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I just pasted my blog in the chat. But yeah, my wife and I would go around the city and collect especially cursive signage, because I'm not a calligrapher. I'm much more into kind of like the visual systems and drawing than I am into writing. But I really admire calligraphers, and so I would collect examples of cursive signs from LA.
It's nice. I'm waiting for you to say something about other fields like art or something like that, but it's really science and calligraphy.
Yeah, I mean, do I pay attention to art? I don't know. I mean, I probably do.
The typography field is enough.
No, it is, but I wanted to know if, I think it's interesting if, it could be only typography, of course. There is no like bad or good answer. But okay, I got my answer, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of other disciplines, it's always interesting to me how my typefaces are used. Like that's the reason why, I included some examples of it being used. And so when I see my typefaces used in like a music video or something, that definitely gets me thinking about, and so I feel like I'm not doing stuff directly inspired by stuff in other fields, but like I see how other fields respond to what I put out there. And then that affects future projects. So it's like, it inspires the next project, not this project, if that makes any sense. I don't know, Oded, I mean, you've done like art exhibitions and stuff. I feel like you're thinking much more multidisciplinary than I am.
Well, it depends on what do you do at the time. I mean, if we're dealing with a typeface, like a classic typeface, that should stay. I learned that it should stay within the framework of typography. Once you go out, you lose the readability, you lose the understanding of the people. But if we talk about typography as a general theme or area, well, typography is just the name of dealing with type. So you can do whatever you like. In my conversation with Shahi a few months ago, he was so surprised to hear from me that I think that illustrators are, for my opinion, the best typographers because you are free. You are looking for certain feeling rather than certain rules all the time. So I think that if we're dealing with experimental stuff, or if we're dealing with something that has to talk about our lives, then typography that uses other fields like, I don't know, architecture, philosophy, music, just name it, science, of course, science. Well, I think that all these things are so fusing like new life to this amazing field. So yes, I try to put everything inside, even cooking, everything.
That's nice. Okay. Unfortunately, we ran out of time, but I think what we're gonna do it again, like another for the viewers and the listeners, and we will do it in this year. We're gonna do the three of us. We're gonna talk again and do it we will have another hour or something, except of the festival, because I have a bunch of questions like that to ask David and you, but we will have time. So thanks for all the viewers that came to this talk with David and Oded, and thanks for
thank
people.
You, Shachi.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Of course, I'm happy that you're here, and I'm happy that this is the second day and everything go good. So it's amazing. I want to thank actually Design It that built the website and the material of the design. If you saw the website, so the website is with Oded fonts of the festival.
They
so
did wonderful work with the website, Shachar.
Yeah, amazing. I really love it, and it's responsive, and the mobile looks good. So thanks for designing it, and I want to thanks to our sponsor Elementor, a website building platform for professional web creators such as design, developers, and marketeers. Elementor is a fast-growing company looking to hire talented designers to join their top-notch design department. Check out Elementor open position at career.elementor.com. Thank you. It was very okay. So you got some more thank you. I think we're gonna next talk is gonna be Berlin illustration panel Hebrew talk, but in 10 p.m. you can come to David to Frenemy, that is a graffiti artist, to join to listen. This will be in English. So wonderful. Thanks for everybody who came. Thanks for that. Thanks, David.
Okay, David, I'm going to contact you soon. Bye-bye. Yeah. Bye, guys.